In 2022, a pair of former ball players and a talented young broadcaster were tasked with creating a college football podcast. These men promptly escaped into the mountains of West Virginia and got to work. If you want top-level football analysis, off-topic stories, and locker room humor, you're in the right place. You are In the Gun.
In the Gun, episode 14, time for a Texas-sized preview here. It's your new favorite WVU podcast, Wesley Uhler with the best teammates in the business, the signal caller Jed Drenning, and the runaway beer truck who is all MacGyvered out over there to make this broadcast work, Mr. Owen Schmitt. This episode of ITG brought to you by our friends at Toothman Ford. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Owen, you hanging in there over there?
I'm barely hanging, son.
To paint the picture for those that aren't watching this on YouTube, Owen had some computer audio issues. So he currently is listening to us through his phone, which is anchored down by his headset, while still talking into his microphone. We're MacGyvering it, baby. We'll make it work.
First world problems.
First world problems.
Yeah.
Owen, we always knew you were a trooper, but I tell you what, I mean, this takes it to a new level here, certainly.
I always go all the way.
You always go all the way. Balls deep, some might even say. In today's episode, we will have a full Texas preview for you. We'll catch up with our buddy Sean Mariner, Big Daddy, here in just a few minutes. We'll do some poll recaps, some runaway questions, a whole bunch of great stuff planned for you on this episode of ITG, so don't go anywhere.
I'm talking with J.R. Toothman of Toothman Ford. J.R., everybody knows a lot of pro athletes buy from you. What's the secret?
Just like Will Greer, future Hall of Famer Frank Gore, James Washington, and many more pros, these guys have financial advisors that are always looking out for them to save time and money, and that's why they always shop at Toothman Ford.
And what if you're like us regular folks that don't have people giving us advice?
You don't need a financial advisor. Toothman Ford will save you time and money no matter who you are. Plus, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy from us. Visit toothmanford.com and get a quick, instant cash offer.
That sounds like a score to me.
That's right. And as always, we'll take anything in trade from chicken wings to Super Bowl rings.
Toothman Ford's got a lot of fans. Here's another one, Dallas Cowboys QB Will Greer.
This is Will Greer, former West Virginia and current NFL quarterback. And cars really do cost less in Grafton at Toothman Ford.
That's a fact, Will. Thanks. You can shop online anytime at toothmanford.com.
Back in the gun here, time for some headlines across the college football universe. We have our next head coach on the out, Jeff Collins, out at Georgia Tech. You surprised by this one at all, Jed?
Not really. They kind of bottomed out. He inherited a somewhat difficult situation. We know that Paul Johnson was there for all those years, and Paul Johnson wasn't that heavy into recruiting, right? He ran a system that he felt that, look, I don't need to out-recruit a lot of people. I don't need to cater to the strengths of this fertile recruiting ground outside of Atlanta. I'm going to run an option-based system anyway. So that's something that Jeff Collins inherited. So when you go from that system, which was in place for several years, they didn't even have a tight end on the roster in the program, right? So structurally, he had to go back to a more traditional version of football, and it was difficult for him to do it. So it ended up turning a little gimmicky. They ended up struggling at all three phases, but it's not a bad job. It's really not. And what's interesting is I'm not a big fan of this new wave of firing coaches at this point in the season. They say they want to get the jump on the hiring cycle. But, you know, some of the names being mentioned, of course, you're going to have all the usual suspects and off the Georgia staff, right? And then, you know, Jamie Chadwell, Coastal Carolina. Interesting one to me. Guy with some flash, guy with some pizzazz, almost a why not type things. Dion. He's done a great job at Jackson State. I mean, for crying out loud, he signed the #1 recruit in the country. He's stolen from Florida State at Jackson State. So this is a guy, with a lot of history in the city of Atlanta. Who knows Atlanta better than primetime Sanders? Maybe he could step in there if given the chance and recruit adequate talent. Now, can he dot the I's and cross the T's at a Power 5 level and surround himself with the type of staff he'd need? Those are some pretty big questions, but who knows which direction they go here. But there is an opportunity to play to the strengths of that city. That's a destination city, right? And see what you can do. But Jeff Collins is out, and now they're kind of a rudderless team in transition.
Prime time down
Jed,
there at Georgia Tech, yo?
Yeah.
My biggest thing there is I'm with Jed. Firing mid-season, you're not getting a jump on nothing, really. Mm-hmm. Everybody's bought up. There might be some guys lingering, but for the team aspect, it's just an absolute disaster. I know he said Dion, if they were to even get him, I'm sure he's already in place so much where he's at. It'd be hard for him to leave because I'm sure he's told those kids, stick with me. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
But if he did go there, it's still going to take a couple years, you know what I mean, to get those guys, implement offenses, defenses, special teams, but a plethora of athletes down there.
Yeah, it certainly is a fertile recruiting ground for sure. That's something that we'll keep an eye on. Who's up next at Georgia Tech? We've got a poll recap here to bring you, as always. This week's Twitter poll brought to you by our friends at Toothman Ford. Simple question. Who will be the star of the game Saturday night in Austin? We gave you 3 options. Bijan Robinson, Mr. Mustardson himself, running back from Texas. JT Daniels, of course, the signal caller for your Mountaineers. And then just an opportunity for you to write in your own. So JT Daniels getting almost 81% of the vote. Bijan Robinson, about 7%. Some of the others, some of the comments that you guys made out there. Texas is not back on Twitter, says Dante Stills, he's going to eat. Jared said Caden Prather. Let's see here. Coos says Justin Johnson is going to have a big game. Brax says, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Mike O'Laughlin, but he will be a key to the offense, ability to block on the edges and out wide. Brian here thinks it'll be the entire defensive line. They'll step up, stop the run, put pressure on whoever is the Texas quarterback. Of course, Brad chiming in. C.J. Donaldson establishing the run game, making them stack the box, allowing JT to do his thing. We got a couple Caden Prathers. Chris said Caden Prather as well, too. A couple C.J. Donaldsons, as you would imagine. And finally, James Carr goes with Casey Legg, who will kick the game winner with 3 seconds left on the clock. Talk about specifics there.
Yeah, he said his 5th field goal for a 22-21 win. I like it. Yeah,
I love it. Cole says Sean Martin. Blake says Lance Dixon. Shane says Sam James. We got a couple stills as well too in there. So a nice plethora of answers there, I think.
Well, I'm the only one who hasn't said plethora yet, right? So there I had to check the box. But first of all, put the poll up last night. Again, tremendous engagement. This was fun. 700 and some votes. And all these write-ins really made this fun. I mean, there were some outside the box ideas there. We might have to take this approach for another one. I really liked the way that Mountaineer Nation responded with some of these ideas and some of these explanations. This was fun.
It was fun. Now, this is going to be a lot of fun. All right, Owen, I know you got your fancy setup over there, and this is good because it's your time to shine, baby. Runaway questions here where the runaway beer truck himself, Owen Schmitt, answers questions from the listener. Big O, I picked 6 good ones for you this week. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let me say one thing.
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah, brother.
We had a comment a couple weeks ago. I apologize because we tried to rectify this since. This poor guy said, look, I'm listening on earbuds. Can you please do away with the truck horn? And we meant to do that the last time around. So no truck horn this time. Our producer is made aware of it. So we're going to work on another intro for runaway questions. But thanks
got a
for
fart
the tips,
horn.
Mr.
horn.
Earbuds. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. A whoopee cushion. Yes.
All right, you know how this works. Pick a couple WVU related ones, couple elsewhere, one or two random questions here. Let's start with Jason, who wants to know how you ended up coaching at Greenbrier West. Did you have any previous ties to the community? Of all the high schools in West Virginia, why Greenbrier West?
I was actually down there. I live there now. And I was helping out with some 7-on-7 stuff 2 years ago in the summertime. And they just kind of cornered me. And I said, you know what? It's time. It's time. I really had a lot of fun being out there. And, you know, I've hung the cleats up long enough, and it's time to get back out.
Well, speaking of that transitions nicely here into our next question from Greg, who says, are you ever tempted to pad up and practice with some of the high schoolers? I know they got to be talking smack to you.
I love this one because I did respond to this guy. Man, I run scout team defense. Well, scout team O against first team defense. And I've been having a ball. Giving those guys a good look, you know, kind of coaching the kids up how to run scout team, and giving the defense a good look. And I've been having fun. I mean, just straight fun. Now, as far as the pads go, the coaches have told me no bueno on that one. No bueno.
It might be a little size difference there still.
I did have a catch where I turned, a kid hit me in the eye, cut me wide open, and we super glued it real quick there. But you know,
hey,
that's part of the deal.
That's part of the deal.
So he's not going Peyton Manning on SNL.
That's right. just whipping the ball at the little kids, teaching them how to break into cars. Yeah, life lessons from Uncle O. Jerry West Nation tweets and says, what player that you ever played against hit the hardest?
Ooh.
I know who it wasn't. It wasn't HB Blades. Running like a scared cat for Pitt. Yeah.
Zinger. Taquito Spikes was fun to go against.
Oh, that's a good one.
He was fun to go against. Obviously, he was a bit older than me when I got in the league, but we always had good battles when we played 49ers. Patrick, who was there as well.
Patrick Willis.
Downhill guy. Yeah, Willis.
Dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dog.
Haas. I got to go against the legendary Zach Thomas when he was playing for Dallas, which was fun. Yeah, I'd probably say Taquito or Patrick, really.
Those are two good ones. Those are two really good ones. Blake wants to know, Owen, what was the biggest adjustment going from college to the pros?
Speed and playbook. Because if anybody knows, Rich's offense does not get you ready for the pros. I believe Jed would agree with me on that.
Yeah, especially West Coast. I mean, that's the Hammurabi code of playbook.
Yeah.
I mean,
my head was spinning. It was flashcard city.
Flashcard City.
Yeah.
I love that one. All right, two maybe goofier ones to get us out of here as always. Mike says, very serious question. Copenhagen or Skull?
Oof. He's going to show us.
He's reaching for something. Oh,
dude.
That's the Cope, dog.
I'm usually wintergreen guy, but I've changed it to my high school days of the mint.
For 17 years, I was a Skull long cut guy, and I gave it up. Yeah.
Now, I was a Skull guy for the longest time. Skull mint.
Fine cut, long cut.
Long cut, yeah. I don't like the stuff in my teeth.
No.
I quit.
Had a coach, John O'Grady at River Falls, Copenhagen, fine cut, and I mean, it looked like he had a rim around his lips all the time, just like the little Copenhagen flakes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, we're not encouraging it. Again, 15 years ago, I quit. It's doable. I'm going to work on Owen too. But
Hey, I quit for the longest time,
but
I work at UPS now.
yeah, that's the law. That's the law. Right?
When you drive a truck, that's the law.
Yeah.
I had about a 3-4 month skull kick when I was a senior in high school. I played hockey growing up, right? That was my sport.
Yeah.
We lost the state championship game my senior year. We were pretty darn good. And the game would end, everyone would go get in the showers, and the skull mint long cut would just get passed around the showers.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had
Wes, I didn't know field hockey was a male sport.
Oh, take it easy. You come see me on the ice, baby. I'll break your ankles out there. I'll carve you up, cuz.
Hey, you want me to come skate with you? I will, buddy.
I do. Let's play some pond hockey this winter.
Let's do it.
Last one for you, Big O. Mitch wants to know if you have a favorite scary movie.
Ooh, it's a good one.
I'm going to be real. I don't watch scary movies
At all?
You prefer field hockey.
I tend not to bring that evil into my life.
So they'd scare you, and that's why you don't watch.
Yeah, I used to have a really weird room growing up. The attic was right at the end of my room, and I put a little hook latch on it, and if I went upstairs and my grandma was in there or anything and she never locked it, I'd freak out. I was a scaredy pants.
So no Halloween, none of it, huh?
I mean, I've watched them. Chucky, it screwed me up for life.
Chucky's
Screwed
freaky.
me up for life. It was
So
too
what
young.
about like thrillers? Like, let's say Silence of the Lambs. That's not really scary.
I can
where
get
I
into
was
some
going.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I saw Silence of the Lambs.
Sometimes I feel like it's too same-minded.
Do you know where? Let me tell you something you probably don't know. Okay. When you go to the William Penn in Pittsburgh, Wes, you're very familiar, I'm sure. The Omni in Pittsburgh, right in the center of the city. Okay. That's kind of our hub of operations for Christmas shopping for a weekend each December. 6 floors below street level, because a bunch of movies are filmed at William Penn. There's all these movies. Okay. It's 100 and some years old, but if you go 6 floors below street level, you're not allowed down there now. I had a security guard show me all around. He took me all around the building, but he told me, I can't take you down here, but 6 floors below street level is Hannibal Lecter's cell. That's where they filmed it. I'm like, and you can't take me down there. Why would you tell me that?
Why would you tell me that?
But it's 6 floors below the street in Pittsburgh where the William Penn was Hannibal Lecter's cell. Yeah,
That's crazy.
With Jodie Foster. Yeah,
I was in 5th grade, I think. I was probably like 11 years old, and I watched Silence of the Lambs with my dad, and I was, my goodness, I was scared to walk around corners like
Thomas Harris, baby.
For
it
months.
got me too.
It puts the lotion in the basket. Yeah,
puts the lotion in the basket.
Yeah, it got me too, but I was a kid, too young.
I was an adult and it got me. I was in college, but it got me. Yeah, it got me.
If you want to get involved with Runaway Beer Questions, obviously the best way to do so, make sure you're following us on Twitter at In the Gun Podcast. That's where you can get involved with our polls, with the Runaway Beer Questions. Now we welcome our WVU football insider, Big Daddy Sean Mariner. We have to ask him the question that we were just kicking around, which is, Sean, do you have a favorite scary movie?
Oh, your fat buddy, not a scary movie guy.
That makes 3 of us.
That said, I really, really, really love me some John Carpenter. Like, The Thing is just like, that's Kurt Russell is when Kurt Russell, Jeff Bridges, and John Goodman go, those 3 are the ones where you're not going to be able to talk to me for weeks. So The Thing's up there. Scream was pretty solid.
Now that's a scary movie. We were just distinguishing between like thriller and scary movie. Like Silence of the Lambs is more of a thriller. It scares
100%.
the daylights out of you. Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Couldn't do it. That one got turned off quick.
Well, before we jump into
real.
You guys are
way
going to
too
excuse
real.
us, okay? We might as well get this out of the way now that we're in the pop culture portion of the ceremony here. Big Daddy and I need to discuss, okay? First of all, you told me you haven't watched Andor yet, the new Star Wars series. Come on, man.
I haven't either. I'm
I'd
slapped.
expect that out of these guys. Okay, well, number 2, huge announcement this week. Hugh Jackman, back as Wolverine, is going to be part of the MCU. Big Daddy, take the floor.
Thrilled. First of all, I'm going to defend myself. Any Star Wars and MCU television show, because I have a 2-year-old, because it is football season, and even before this, I let them go until the whole season's ready. Yep. And then bang, I'm pounding through them. I'm not doing the stop-start.
Like 2 or 3 days, and you just crush it.
Well,
when Loki came out, big guy, I waited until it was done. I was home for like 2 days before I had to go to women's basketball. Big guy got sick. He laid on my chest for a day straight, threw up on me a couple times. We watched the whole damn series. We got through it.
They launched Andor last week, and it was the first 3 episodes.
Yes.
And so I got back from Blacksburg, and then like late Friday night, Mav and I, my little guy and I were watching it, and he passed out because it was later. And I kind of passed out halfway through it and had to catch up Saturday morning. But yeah, I binged 3 of them anyway.
I've heard nothing but incredible things. Now,
kind of Blade Runner-esque. Yeah.
Wolverine, your fat buddy is ready. I don't know if you saw the 3 tweets. They made the announcement, and then Ryan Reynolds came out with the tweet today where they discussed plot points, and you'll have to go and find the tweet. It was very, very, very well done. Hugh Jackman's the only Wolverine that I know. Hugh Jackman's the only Wolverine that I want since 2001 when X-Men came out in high school. That's
the Wolverine of the people.
Yeah. Logan is a flawless film. Flawless film.
Yes, unless they're going to get Owen Schmitt from Central Casting to be the next Wolverine, it has to be Hugh Jackman.
But only if he has the apple juice and the professor hair for the whole time.
That's right.
And I will always love Hugh.
Always.
That was just fantastic. All right, Big Daddy, no time to waste. Give me your Blacksburg synopsis. Lane Stadium, first time, enter Sandman. Was it great? Was it bad? Was it just okay? Talk to us.
The team running out, Virginia Tech, first of all, the build up for like 3 minutes before, they're playing songs and they're jumping up and down. Awesome. And our Sandman starts. Awesome. The team, Virginia Tech, runs out, and it was just, oh, okay. They're just running out to Sandman. Then WVU runs out, they cut the music, and the entire stadium sings the song for 2 more minutes. And that was freaking sweet. That was the one.
During the coin toss, even, they kept doing it.
That was absolutely incredible. The fireworks looked great. Like, that was pretty cool. And it was loud early, but then after halftime, it was loud for other reasons that we enjoyed.
Yeah, when the crowd starts like reverbing the song, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, everybody had warned me how vertical it was. And it was pretty straight up, but it wasn't, it didn't feel as on top of you as all the horror stories that I've heard. Like, I thought it was pretty decent, actually.
It felt like kind of like Maryland, like I think those seats
Maryland
up top,
steep,
you probably need seat belts for those seats up top.
So our video guy pregame walked up to get, some shots for the recap and everything.
Oh yeah.
And just watching him walk to the top and like where the lights were, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Thank you.
So Big Daddy and I were in the locker room coordinating, guys. We're in no rush to get out of there. I mean, we're listening to Neil and we're just kind of at a very measured pace while making our way out the corridor in front of the team. Well, this time around, we wanted to hear Neil and then make our way down the corridor. We're all like, we can't miss Sandman. So Mariner knew exactly what time it was going to be. Oh, it's 3 minutes before we go out. It's this and that. So we were looking at the clock in the locker room to make sure we were down the tunnel in time to get Sandman. Yeah.
Alex, one of our football video guys, he's the second in command to Sean. He plays the motivational in the locker room for the team. He pressed play. The second it was over, he didn't even wait for Neil. He turned the projector off and he walked out the side door so he could get out onto the field. I was right by. As soon as Neil was done, boop, gone. See ya.
I love it. That's great. So, I mean, locker room after the game, I had to imagine that's probably one of the better post-game situations that you've been around in the last few years.
I put out that tweet that was just my kind of raw footage that I color corrected just because, we had so much stuff. Not everything got used. And I just stood in the doorway and filmed them coming in, and they were just losing their mind. When Gamitter came in, the team's dancing and chanting and everything, and then Gamitter comes in just screaming. Neil does the speech and hands the trophy to Doug. Like that, it was insane. We did post-game right outside of the locker room. We just taped it up on the concrete out there. Wasn't a great post-game situation. But we're bringing players out. Coach comes out and everything. And normally it's like, okay, we got to get moving because we got to get on the bus. Oh, and get on the bus. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's go home.
Like an hour after the game ends, you're trying to be out of there. Yeah.
We weren't even worried about getting it done quick because as we got to our third or fourth player to interview in front of the backdrop, the whole staff and defensive line all together, offensive line all together are walking back from the field because they went back out to take photos with the trophy. So we had plenty of time.
Yeah. And we had fans down in that corner sharing with it. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
26 minutes, wheels up to wheels down from Clarksburg, West Virginia to Roanoke, Virginia.
You're still climbing.
6 minutes.
Sean,
you could touch the top of snowshoe. Like Jed was trying to lean out the window and touch the hotel that he's.
I wasn't on the plane. Yeah, I had to drive back the next day because I stayed back. We did the post game, and
it was unreal.
Lost his car and the whole deal. Yeah,
that's how it's supposed to be when you play regional games, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. I can drive to Pitt, and it's 26 minutes to run.
Remember that concept? Yeah, I'll next week we'll be flying from Pittsburgh to Buffalo, and I've been told that's a 28-minute flight. So
Yep,
get a lot of good rest on there. Yeah,
I'll let you know. Sean, you mentioned those pictures that like the offensive line, the defensive line, the position groups, and I think Chad Scott was out there with the running backs and stuff, taking pictures there at the Lane Stadium field with the trophy. That was one of those things. I was like smiling on the inside when I saw all those pictures because if somebody did that to us, right? Like if Pitt wins in Morgantown or something like that, and then there's pictures that come out of them like out on the field like celebrating and taking pictures, I'd have like the rage of 1,000 suns. Yep. But I thought it was phenomenal. I was like, we're not going to see these guys again for a while. And,
if they get mad, great. We'll see you in 15, 20 years whenever your non-conference opens up.
So shifting gears, Big Daddy, 2 questions for you. We're heading to DKR. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is this a Salt Lick Friday night?
No.
One. Okay. Next. Well, I want to hear your choice.
Done.
And question 2, do you have a McConaughey story?
So I've never got to meet him. I've seen him like from a distance, and by the time I saw him, the game was on and I'm doing a bunch of stuff. So I've never got to interact with him. And obviously, what year was he here? He was on the sidelines.
It's been 3 times he's been here.
And
I met him one of the 3. Yeah.
See, because you're down there, but we're upstairs. I'm running the show upstairs.
That's true. Yeah.
So when we go on road trips, my
job. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
13 was the year where like everyone was stalking him out. Yeah.
The overtime game in Morgantown. I thought you meant in Austin. Gotcha. Okay.
When we go on road trips about 5 years ago, I took it upon myself as the obese Epicurean in the group to send out Wes. Okay, to send out an email on Monday or Tuesday of here's the hotel that we are staying at. Here are all the food spots around our hotel to most of the staff that travels so that everybody knows, okay, we can go out, we can get out and about and get stuff. So for me, this trip, Urban Eats is looking good. Jack Allen's we did in 2018. I think we know what happened that year, so I don't know if I have to go back there for good luck. Round Rock Donuts always look solid. They've got a Chicago sandwich place that is like good Chicago, Italian beef,
shaved beef,
all that stuff, but meets sandwich you. Like you can get one with like cheese sticks and chicken fingers on it. So it depends on how tubby I want to get that Friday night since we've met.
It's the only place that we've never changed up where we eat, me and Tony and Dwight.
Every time. And Rio and Montoro told me from day one, like it's Salt Lick. It's Salt Lick.
Montoro's every time. Yeah.
It was nice. It was good. I wanted to branch out a little bit.
Not a bad.
Sean's an adventurer when it comes to the palate.
Culinary adventurer. Yes.
That's what I.
Culinary Indiana Jones.
That's what I believe it. Culinary Indiana Jones. Sean, last one I've got for you. On the plane flight to Austin, Texas, will you be listening to anything other than Stevie Ray Vaughan?
No, I'm glad. Wes, I'm so glad you remembered.
It's every time down in Texas.
From day one, when we flew to Austin in 2012, from the moment my feet hit the ground, I will only listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan. 2018, I allowed some ZZ Top, even though they're not Austin-based, obviously Texas-based.
Sure.
I allowed a little ZZ Top in there. So, but that's it. It is just Stevie Ray as the day is long. Favorite guitar player of all time. So let's just enjoy him as much as possible.
From the time that I wake up Saturday till kickoff at 7:30, it'll be Stevie Ray Vaughan blasting throughout the house.
Yep. Sky is Crying. Like I'm looking out the window like it's Friday Night Lights, and it's just Sky is Crying or Texas Flood playing nonstop.
Just Little Wing on repeat.
Did you
last
see?
One for you. Go ahead.
Right before I got on this, I got a text, and I sent it on to my people that are going to Austin. Nelly and an opener to be named are playing the LBJ lawn directly across from DKR at
Really?
5 p.m.
At 5 p.m.
At 5 p.m. Nelly is, Nelly might not be on until whenever, but 5 p.m. LBJ lawn right across the road. We got a Nelly concert, boys.
We'll be on the air at up at the booth.
Team will be arriving, so I'll be cashed out. Give
us your best DKR memory. There's a long list of them. We got the Will play. We got the Dana crowd surfing. We got the Kaiser White hit. There's a bunch of them.
Tavon Austin on fourth down.
Fourth down, that's my first memory from there, and that one just has longevity. I got a great shot of Gino dropping it on the phone. That was a great one. Will's obviously incredible. Kaiser, I feel like, gets slept on because that hit was absolutely unreal.
Delicious.
Another one I enjoy, Jed, so it had to have been, we play them there in even year. So it had to have been 16. Remember, that was the game that ended. Texas had the football.
Yes.
And they had 38 guys on the field.
Yes.
And nobody caught it. Then they had to go into replay, and they were showing it on the board, and ESPN was trying to count them.
Yes.
We're skipping people to make sure that it looked like there were 11.
And
I'm standing next to that very soft-spoken, even-keeled gentleman we all know as Tyler Orlowski. So you can only imagine how that conversation was going. And then all of a sudden they were just like, oh, they had too many people. Game's over.
We're all standing literally in the middle of the field. I'm standing with Gibby and Dana, waiting on Dana. First, he has to shake hands, and then I got to do an interview, and we're all just waiting.
Yep.
It's like both teams were on the field, and technically the game wasn't over. I'm glad you brought that up. That
was insane.
Real. Yes.
Yeah.
That was the Skylar Howard 10-2 season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
That was a good one.
Yep.
You can't beat the Will. Like the Gary Jennings touchdown to Will Greer 2-point conversion. You just can't beat
that whole sequence.
Right? You just can't beat it.
I think I'm going to mention this earlier, one of our episodes when we had Sean on. The most underrated thing about that whole sequence is how we hit the 2-point conversion to David Sills, they pulled that BS. Oh, Texas called a timeout, and we had to run it again. All right, no problem. Will Greer to the left. How you doing?
No, same exact play. Will always has the option to do whatever he needs to. If you go back and watch, Kelby sealed his guy, and Josh Sills got second level. So Will said, "Don't care, screw it."
They bet hard on David Sills because they were like, "Oh, same play. They're going." They
bracketed him. They had the safety down into his living room.
They went empty, and it was a quick game set. One day on a future show, we're gonna have to draw up exactly what they were doing there and what his reads were. And it gets to a point where when you reached where Will was in the offense, that play's almost unstoppable. There's so many options based on how it's defended.
Yeah, so especially when you only need 2 yards too.
It with 3 yards, 2 in the NFL. We could have probably done it 5 times in a row with Will.
Jed, you remember later in the season when we're at OK State, we run a 2-point conversion play, and T.O., who was our GA, dropped this. All they did was flip it. So rather than Sills on the left where Will could follow him, they just flipped it. So Sills was on the right, and Will ran it in for a 2-point conversion at OK State too. They just had the same play. They called a different set, and that was it.
You had to bring that up.
I friggin' love it. Well, Sean, here's to making more memories this weekend down in Austin. You have yourself some fun down there, partner.
Can't wait. I love the shirt. Didn't say it right off the bat. Love the shirt. Jed freaks me out without at least a 5 o'clock shadow. A freshly shaven Jed.
I know, right? He looks 10 years younger right now.
It gets to a point where I went to a barber in Fairmont, West Virginia, who charges you $4.
Okay.
And of course you give him 10. So it's a nice little situation he has set up there. But I had the beard. And he said, well, how low do you want this thing? I said, don't even worry about the beard. I said, it's due to come off anyway. I'll let it regrow. He said, why don't I just whack it off for you? Well, I got the clippers out. I said, have at it. He didn't charge me extra. It wasn't $5 worth of shave. It was $4 for the haircut and the shave. You can probably tell by looking at it.
The way my Zoom is laid out, the good gentlemen with beards are directly here atop each other. And then the baldies are over here.
Okay.
I love it. Sean Mariner, ladies and gentlemen, our handsome, tubby man of gold, WVU Athletics video insider, our best friend, your best friend. Follow him on Twitter at Big Daddy Mariner. Sean, great stuff, buddy. Thanks as always for your time. And we'll see you on TV. I'll see you on TV on Saturday.
I was just sidling through this whole segment. Look at him.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there taking it all in, man.
Just deep breathing.
He's in the
See,
zone.
boys.
Can't really move.
He's flawless. Flawless setup, Owen.
Flawless. Sean, thanks,
fellas.
buddy. Make
Thank
it,
you.
Thanks,
make
Big
it
Daddy.
flood down there in Texas. Let's
Heck,
go.
Stevie Ray Vaughan forever.
50.
We got to get to another break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of the projections, some of the predictions that we make here every single week, top 25, Big 12, and some of our individual award winners. We'll get into all that when we return. Wesley Uhler, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmitt, you are in the gun.
Game day got you on the go? We get it. GoMart is here to keep you going all season long with stores throughout our home state. We're a proud West Virginia-owned company, and our friendly staff is committed to serving our communities. From fuel to freshly brewed coffee and snacks, a stop at GoMart to cover your game day needs is always a touchdown. Plus, GoMart Rewards members earn points with each purchase to redeem for discounts on gas and free items. So stop by, start saving, and stay on the go with GoMart.
Back in the gun here. Time to take a look around the rest of the college football world before we get into our Texas preview. We'll give some projections, some predictions here as well, too. There is a full slate of top 25 action this weekend, Jed. We'll pull up our projections now, and what are we looking at?
Let's start with Kentucky at Ole Miss. Matchup between two top 15 teams. Who's going to separate? Who's going to prove they're for real? We've got a projection with Mississippi favored by 6.5 Ole Miss. A 31-24 type Ole Miss win. Alabama on the road at Arkansas. Bama heavy favorite as you'd expect. Favored by 16, over under in the low 60s. We're projecting a Alabama 38-21 type game. Wake at Florida State. If in fact they play these games out, we all know what's going on with the impending hurricane down in the southeastern portion of the United States. Folks down there listening, please stay safe. So if they play this, FSU favored by 6. We have a 37-31 type game. We're projecting FSU as the winner. And then big one in Death Valley. NC State. This will be one of the bigger wins in maybe the history of that program, even though they knocked off Clemson last year. Battle of the Unbeatens, two top 10 teams. The Fighting Gibbies head into Clemson. We're projecting a Clemson win, 27-20, based on Clemson's favored by 7, over under in the mid 40s, expecting a defensive battle. So that's what we're looking at in our top 25 projections based on what Vegas thinks, we think.
The fake Death Valley there in Clemson.
The fake Death Valley.
Because the real one's down in Baton Rouge. That's right.
Yeah.
That's the game day game this weekend?
Supposed to be. But again, all these things might impact it by, it's, remember, it was 2018. We were supposed to go to NC State. It was this time of year. And sure enough, that thing got wrecked by a weather situation. It's this time of year in that part of the country, you got to be careful. So.
No, you absolutely do. And I think, they were talking about Virginia Tech's at North Carolina this Saturday. Mm-hmm. I know they've already put out some preemptive, hey, we might have to cancel this game. We'll let everybody know at least 24 hours ahead of time. Yeah. So like Jed said, thoughts and prayers. Certainly everybody stay safe. All of our listeners that are in that area. And same thing here, Jed, a big kind of moving and shaking weekend for the Big 12 as well, too. Let's pull up some projections here. What do we got?
A full slate. First time we have 5 Big 12 games involving all 10 Big 12 teams, starting with Oklahoma at TCU. Can the Sooners rebound in Fort Worth? Oklahoma favored by 5, expected to be a high-scoring affair. We project Oklahoma a 35-31 type winner. Texas Tech at K-State. That should be a good one. Both teams coming off huge wins. So in the Little Apple, we're projecting Kansas State as a 33-24-ish type winner. The early line was like K-State minus 7.5, over under high 50s. Baylor and Oklahoma State, talk about big games. It gets no bigger than this. A 3-0 Cowboy team heading to Waco to take on Dave Aranda's 3-1 Bears. The line's close. Baylor -2 at home, over under mid 50s. We're projecting a Baylor win, but a close one, 28-27. That's the projection. And then finally, Iowa State on the road in Lawrence. And here we are. This is a big game. Didn't think we'd be saying this at one point, but this is another big game.
Yes, it is.
As Iowa State takes on the unbeaten Kansas Jayhawks. Iowa State favored on the road by 3.5. We're projecting a 31-27-ish, Iowa State. Again, these aren't picks, projections based on the point spread and the over-under. 31-27, Iowa State over Kansas is the projection, but a lot of big action on the Big 12 slate this weekend. Owen? He's on mute, so here we go.
Oh, no.
Moving along, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, we'll move along here with Big O. We'll get this figured out. Let's see. We go from our projections now into our predictions.
Yeah.
That is where we each give a separate prediction here. We will start with Mr. Jedgar Allan Poe, his Big 12 signal caller of the week. Which Big 12 quarterback will throw for the most passing yards? Who you got, Jed?
We just talked about that Iowa State trip to Kansas. I'm rolling with Hunter Deckers. I think he's going to have an opportunity against that Kansas defense. I do think there's going to be some points scored there. So I think it'll be back and forth, and the back and forth portion of it's often what feeds these things. So I think Hunter Deckers is going to have some opportunities. In Lawrence, against the Jayhawks, I'm going with him for Iowa State to throw for the most yards in the Big 12 this week.
I think Owen's having an issue here.
I got his pick.
We can see him, but we can't hear him, and I don't know if he can hear us. Who's Owen got for the runaway beer truck of the week? Which Big 12 running back will have the most yards this weekend?
Yeah, if you could hear Owen, the first thing he'd do is apologize for being so far off last week and picking.
Oh man, just gonna kick the man while he's down. I tell you what.
He's going with Deuce Vaughn. Good pick. Explosive little dynamo Deuce against Texas Tech in Manhattan. Can they keep rolling? Again, now it's a two-headed monster. Adrian Martinez came out of his shell last week. So Owen is going with Deuce Vaughn against that Texas Tech defense. That should be an interesting battle in the Little Apple. So he's picking him to rush for the most.
That's crazy.
We hear
there he is. He's back.
It's not good.
We hear you now.
Through the phone.
I was going to say, sounds like you're talking on the phone now, but hey, you can hear us?
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
There we
Deuce
go.
Vaughn, right out.
Oh, man.
Deuce Vaughn, Big O.
Huh? Deuce Vaughn, yep. Deuce Vaughn almost just shy of 500 yards. The little guy's going to get some. I think they're going to put a lot of emphasis on Adrian Martinez this week. Hopefully get him up there and those big daddies up front, give him some push so he can do his thing. Yeah, he's due for a big one there, certainly. I predict the Big 12 defense of the week. Which defense will give up the fewest points? And speaking of Kansas State, I'm going to go with the Wildcats. Stingy defense, they always have one, right? But I think, Texas Tech, they're still a work in progress. And they took a step forward last week. Big home win against Texas, right? They almost blew it. They get the field goal. They let Texas drive down the field with no time, tie the game, send it to overtime. They're able to escape there in Lubbock at home with a victory. Sometimes when you have these teams, right, these young teams, new head coaches looking to climb, right, to progress, a lot of times progression isn't linear. You could take 3 steps forward and then a step or 2 back, right? And I think that's what Texas Tech does on the road at K-State this week. I think Kansas State wins that one, a low-scoring game. It is the lowest over-under number in the Big 12 conference this week. So my Big 12 defense of the week, I'll go with the K-State Wildcats.
What happened to them the last time they were on the road at NC State? That's exactly what happened to them. They got bottled up. And I'll tell you what, Wes, this is the first week where – man, you could talk me into any of the 10 teams in the Big 12 scoring the most points.
You really could. Yeah.
Or the fewest points. I mean, these matchups are crazy. All 5 games will, of course, get into the West Virginia-Texas game here in a bit.
That we will. We're going to actually take a break now, and we will start to get into the WVU Texas game. When we come back, we'll talk who's got the edge in the air, on the ground, special teams, intangibles, all those different things. We'll do that when we return after a word from our friends at Toothman Ford. You are in the gun.
I'm talking with J.R. Toothman of Toothman Ford. J.R., everybody knows a lot of pro athletes buy from you. What's the secret?
Just like Will Greer, future Hall of Famer Frank Gore, James Washington, and many more pros, these guys have financial advisors that are always looking out for them to save time and money, and that's why they always shop at Toothman Ford.
And what if you're like us regular folks that don't have people giving us advice?
You don't need a financial advisor. Toothman Ford will save you time and money no matter who you are. Plus, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy from us. Visit toothmanford.com and get a quick, instant cash offer.
That sounds like a score to me.
That's right. And as always, we'll take anything in trade from chicken wings to Super Bowl rings.
Toothman Ford's got a lot of fans. Here's another one, Dallas Cowboys QB Will Grier.
This is Will Grier, former West Virginia and current NFL quarterback. And cars really do cost less in Grafton at Toothman Ford.
That's a fact, Will. Thanks. You can shop online anytime at toothmanford.com.
ITG, a WVU football podcast. Wesley Uhler, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmitt. Time now to get into a little Texas preview here on the pod. You guys know how this works. We'll talk advantages here first as we take a look at the Longhorns. Who's got the edge in the air, on the ground, special teams, intangibles. Let's start in the air. Owen, I'll come to you here first. Who's got the edge in the air, the Mountaineers or the Horns?
I went with us, JT and the boys playing lights out football right now. Got some things to work on, but I think this is a good week coming off of 2 good wins. Going away, hostile environment. 7:30 p.m. kickoff. It is going to be rowdy. I think we got it, though. I think we played enough big games, big atmosphere. We're going to come to play.
Certainly have. I mean, just about every single game so far that we've played has been in prime time other than Towson. So, yeah, hopefully that'll be something that's not going to, flap these guys at all. They'll be unflappable in the night environment down there in Austin. Mr. Drenning, do you concur? Mountaineers advantage in the air, or you going with Longhorns?
In the air, I'm going with West Virginia. Now, I'm looking at this kind of big picture. First of all, I do see JT Daniels joining that long list, or that illustrious list that isn't very long, of Mountaineer quarterbacks, from Geno to Will to Mickey Trimarchi back in 1956, who went on the road and won in Austin. But this is an interesting matchup. Okay, when you look at what Pete Kwiatkowski does as the defensive coordinator at Texas, he has a long history that's very storied as a D coordinator against the air raid offense. He's had tremendous success against the more traditional air raid of Mike Leach. He spent a long time as the defensive coordinator at Washington, won a bunch of Apple Cups in a row against Washington State with Leach there. A couple of those, Graham Harrell was on staff for, coaching the outside receivers. Now, I think that Leach had 7 tries, and in 7 tries didn't score 20 points against one of PK's defenses. I've listened to podcasts. I've broken a lot of things down this week, or even over the course of the summer, about what he does defensively that's a little bit different. He demonstrates tremendous patience against traditional air raids. Now, he also faced Graham Harrell when Graham was the OC at Southern Cal in 2019, and he beat Graham 28-14. Now, Graham was trying to run the football, of course, more than Leach does, and didn't have a lot of success against him, but that's kind of an unfair comparison because Graham was down to his 3rd-string quarterback, Matt Fink, at the time. You already had JT hurt that year. Keaton Slovis was hurt, so he was down to Fink, and they didn't play well offensively. Fink was picked off 3 times, poor production on 3rd down, so PK kind of had his way with the air raid offense of Graham Harrell that time. But what he'll do, guys, he used to be a big quarters defense guy. Okay, now he got tired of RPOs gashing those quarters coverages. So his answer to that, and there was a big movement toward this, like 2014, 2015, some of the more traditional guys that have some sense that aren't Pat Narduzzi started adjusting to the RPOs gashing their cover 4 quarters defense, okay? Because they got tired of seeing the same quarters to cover 4 beaters, these post dig combinations or double posts off the play action RPO looks. So they come up with this, and Dave Aranda at Baylor does a lot of this too. He did it at LSU, but there's a version of it called cover 3 burn. And it's almost like a cover 3 match. When we go trips, they'll run either a match or a zone to the field. And it's kind of interesting the way they do this, but it keeps solid edges against the run. It has a lot of eyes downhill on the run game and the pass game. And what it puts him in position to do, if you look back and track his numbers statistically, it matches what I'm saying here. They put a lid on it defensively. They don't give up a lot of big plays in the pass game. So interestingly enough, when you study his defenses, you'll see 2 things. Completion percentage that are always among the highest allowed in the conference that he's in. Last year, I mean, right now, Texas is allowing almost 70%, 68% completion. Okay. Again, a year ago, they allowed the fewest 30-yard completions. Go back to Washington and look at them each year, high completion percentage, but the fewest 30-yard completions like 4 straight years running in Washington. Keeps things in front of him. He demonstrates tremendous patience. And his thinking is, look, if I drop numbers into coverage, if I drop resources back, these quarterbacks in these air raid offenses are very competitive guys. They'll get frustrated. So eventually they're going to hold on to it a little bit too long, which means I'll be able to sack them with just a 3 or 4 man rush because they're trying to make something happen downfield, or they'll force it. We'll tip a ball, force a turnover, and that's how he's had success against it. I think the difference is going to be JT Daniels' football IQ is higher than most of these guys that he's faced in the system. He's going to recognize that. It's a night of patience for JT, not splash plays. You're not going to gash him with a bunch of 40 or 50 yarders. If you get one, great. You're playing with house's money because typically against these guys, you don't. But I do think a combination of JT's patience and our ability to run the football is going to put us in position to do just enough in the pass game to have an advantage. And they have question marks at the quarterback position. They got 2 productive kids, but I think we're going to chop that front up with Stills, with Jefferson, and create enough problems for them to give us a bit of an edge, our pass game versus their pass game. So I agree.
Geez, that's a tough dissertation to follow there. I tell you what a breakdown from the signal caller. We'll make it a clean sweep. I'm going WVU, edge in the air. Not a massive advantage, but I'm with you guys. If Quinn Ewers was playing, maybe I'd have to think about that. And I guess he could be playing. We're still not entirely sure. But I think you're right. I think JT is smart enough to be patient, to lean on CJ and Tony in the run game, and make just enough plays through the air to give WVU the advantage in that department. Jed, I'll let you go first on this one. Edge on the ground. You got the Longhorns or the Mountaineers?
Okay, Pro Football Focus for the second year in a row isn't kind to Texas from a tackling grade standpoint. They see them as a poor fundamental football team. Last year, they had the worst tackling grade in the Big 12. This year, they're 8th out of 10 teams in the Big 12. But I'm still a believer in what Kwiatkowski does defensively. I do think that he can dial up some answers and make things creative. They got some big bodies. When they show up, I mean, we saw what they did to Alabama. It's a function of whether or not they show up, okay? They had their way with that Alabama offensive line. Alabama struggled to run the football. They truly did. And I think under the lights, they're a little sore over what happened in Lubbock. They're tired of hearing about it. I think we're going to get a better effort than we saw out of the Texas front 7 against Texas Tech or against UTSA. I think they're going to bring a premium effort. I think we'll make some plays, but I just can't bring myself. And I do think Dante's going to play a good football game, and I have faith in Jordan Jefferson. Owen, they're so effective with that stretch play, with that outside zone. I think Bijan Robinson's the best running back in America. I really do. And I struggle to go against him in this scenario. And I have to go with Texas and Mr. Mustardson. He has 34 missed tackles forced. That's the most in the country. And since they started tracking that metric in 2014, his career average is one of the 2 best they've ever seen. I mean, he is the real deal. He's powerful. He's fast. He's twitchy. I just can't go against him on the ground.
I respect that. I think just the way our O-line's played the last 2 games, our center had a big game against Virginia Tech. He's playing great football, lights out right now. I think they're going to rally around. We just had that big road game. We know we're going on the road again. I think our running backs right now are really starting to pop. They're really starting to click, really starting to get the offense, really starting to hit the holes. No disrespect to Texas, because that guy is a Greek god. It's a test for us, and I think we're going to accept the challenge.
I like it. So I'll break the tie here, I guess, and I'll be the bad guy. Owen, I'm sorry. I'm going to side with Jed on this one, though. You're right. Owen's ready to put them Dukes up. I agree with everything you just said, Owen. I was very encouraged by our offensive line, but I think it's one thing to do it against that Tech defense as opposed to this Texas front. And, man, we all love C.J. Donaldson. We all know Tony Mathis is capable. We know WVU's got some horses in that backfield without a doubt. But, man, Bijan Robinson, he is the real deal. Like Jed said, I think, too, he's the best running back in college football. He was one of those kind of long shot Heisman guys coming into the season that thought, hey, if you want to throw $10, $20, something on a long shot, he'd be a good value. He can make guys miss. He can beat you, and he's done it against everybody. Had a nice showing against Alabama, particularly when Quinn Ewers went out of that game, and they were really leaning on him. I went WVU in the air slightly. I'll go same thing here. Texas slightly. Not a massive advantage, but I'll go Longhorns here as well. That leaves finally here edge in special teams and intangibles. And I'm going to start first on this one, gentlemen. And unfortunately, I'm going with the Longhorns here as well, too. For special teams reasons, to me, it's listen, we all love Casey Legg. We do. The other side of that is, I'm not going to lie, every time Texas punts the ball to us, I'm going to be holding my breath. Because in 4 games this season, we have 2 muffed punts. We're doing it 50% of the time. And, it cost us against Kansas. We got away with it in what could have been a huge momentum-swinging moment at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg. It worries me. It really does. In Texas, they've got solid kicker, solid punter. They do a good job of kicking that thing out of the end zone as well, too. And with intangibles as well, this one was a tough one for me. I was perusing through Jed's Bible of different resources, and the one thing that kept standing out to me is WVU as an offense, we've struggled to put the ball in the end zone in the red zone. We've had to settle for 3 too many times, whereas Texas has done the opposite. They've been very good in the red zone. They're very good on third downs as well, too. I think, Jed, you can correct me if I'm wrong with this because you're the numbers guy, and I'm sure you do know, but I think Texas, something like 88% of their trips to the red zone, they're scoring touchdowns, I think it was. That's impressive. And so, again, not by a massive margin, but I will go Longhorns here as well.
Yeah, Wes, I'm right there with you. The punts scare me. We haven't been playing great on kickoff return. Texas just has too many athletes that they can put on the field for the special teams. I just think they outmatch us there with the speed. So I'm definitely going with Texas.
Mr. Drenning.
Okay, I'm going to ask you if I can provide information, do you want to amend your vote? Texas is last in the Big 12 at 53% touchdown production in the red zone.
Whoa! Oh, my research failed me.
So you're looking at the wrong number. But here's what I'll say.
Or CFB stats, or your CFBstats.com lied to me.
Oh no, that's where I got the number. But,
okay. I must have. That's why I'm not a numbers guy.
This is a complex question.
Because
there are so many factors, so many moving parts. Okay, we can go to the special teams part, and the short answer is Texas should always have a special teams advantage based on who's populating their roster, and ergo who's populating those units, right? But don't sell Casey Legg short. I mean, this could be that type of game. Okay, I do think that we'll rectify our issues, our fumbleitis in the return game. I'm not making excuses, but when I look back at them, one was a misplayed football in horrible rainy conditions. The other one was in horrible windy conditions. I think we'll fix that. But then again, I'm looking at it like, let's move from the special teams to the intangibles part. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is the first time in 4 years the Texas offense and defense are playing a second season in a row under the same coordinator. Okay. It's interesting there, but the intangible that I'm looking at is, and we've talked about it before. Once you develop a bit of a swagger, okay, he's on fire. Okay. Well, we're on a bit of fire coming out. Say what you want about Virginia Tech. Okay. That was the largest margin of victory in Blacksburg in the history of that series. Okay. We played a good football game, but not a perfect football game. So, opportunities to get better on what we did, our shortcomings last week, our struggles in the red zone, our struggles on third down. Here's the tiebreaker to me, okay? I still see, and trust me, I could get into all the talents of Sarkisian and what makes him effective. He runs an RPO offense that forces you to defend every inch of the field. He uses the running back as a resource in the pass game like few others. He's incredibly difficult to defend out of that RPO game. He makes life hell for you defensively in terms of what your adjustments will or won't look like. He'll give you motions and movement. He has, and here's the other thing, Owen, you'd appreciate this. When he builds his RPOs, he attaches just one read to it. In other words, he says that if I give my quarterback multiple pass options on an RPO, 3 out of 4 times the ball is going to be in the air. He said, I want one pass read, so we run it just as much as we throw it, okay? Smart on his part. He'll use the backside wideouts to block, okay? So RPOs, he's among the best. He's among the best at play calling. But you know what he still lacks? He doesn't see the game globally like a true head coach. He doesn't appreciate the interconnectivity of the 3 units, how what his offense does impacts his defense. So a year ago,
you saw that in Lubbock on Saturday.
You did, and that's nothing new. Again, people acted surprised by that, and I tried to point out, look, last year, this was one of the narratives that I went into the Texas game with when we played them last year in Morgantown. They faced the most defensive snaps per game in the Big 12 a year ago, 71 a game. He was doing this to his defense last year. This year, that's ballooned up to 78 snaps a game. He's putting his defense in a lot of tough situations. Now, the fact that they're not winning some of these, they won some third down battles, but what's misleading is they weren't winning on fourth down. Texas Tech was 6 of 8 on fourth down. That's how you run 100 snaps. So sometimes, and this is what Neil Brown gets this, Steve Sarkisian doesn't. Sometimes as an offensive-minded guy, your defense is on fire. Sometimes you got to grab a bucket of water and put that fire out. Sometimes you don't need to put the pedal down and get a quick 3 and out because you're trying to score every time, high octane. Sometimes you got to methodically plod your way to a couple first downs and punt so your defense has time to grab a Gatorade and make some adjustments on the sidelines on the grease board. Sarkisian's not let his defense do that. Now, I'm a big fan of PK, what he does defensively at Texas, but I think that unit is put in some tough spots. So to me, that's the tiebreaker. You got a head coach in Neil Brown that does see things a little more globally and helps his defense out. We've talked in the past about how the snap counts are down in terms of the number of snaps we face defensively. That's a big part of our success. That's like our defensive numbers are toward the top of the Big 12, but our defensive yards per play is in the middle of the Big 12 because we're not facing as many snaps. Neil gets that. Sark still doesn't. As talented as a play caller he is, I think this is the type of game where that might matter again. So if we can start winning on a few of those third downs, demonstrate the patience that we talked about, stay ahead of the sticks, you can really, this could be a recipe for bad things for Texas defensively to be on the field all night. I'm going to be watching that from early in the game. If we get a lengthy drive going, I'm mentally tallying those snap counts, those play counts, because that's the kind of thing that, just as we talked about before, can start impacting you later in the game. And to me, that's the intangible tiebreaker that has me lean toward West Virginia in the special teams intangible category.
I like it. We'll pull up the graphic now. Here's our picks. Edge in the air, edge on the ground, edge in special teams, and intangibles. Of course, let us know on Twitter, in the replies on YouTube, what you guys think. Give us your picks as well, too, as we continue to get ready for Saturday night down in Austin. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we will continue to preview the Texas Longhorns. We'll look back a little bit at last year's meeting. We'll also do a little tale of the tape and give some projections for this game before we get out of here as well. You are in the gun.
Game day got you on the go? We get it. GoMart is here to keep you going all season long with stores throughout our home state. We're a proud West Virginia-owned company, and our friendly staff is committed to serving our communities. From fuel to freshly brewed coffee and snacks, a stop at GoMart to cover your game day needs is always a touchdown. Plus, GoMart Rewards members earn points with each purchase to redeem for discounts on gas and free items. So stop by, start saving, and stay on the go with GoMart.
Final segment here in the gun as we get you ready for Mountaineers Longhorns, 7:30 down in Austin, Texas on FS1 Saturday night in prime time. Before we continue to look ahead. It's always good to look back. WVU 31-23 winners last year in what was a really important game for the 2021 Mountaineers last year in Morgantown. Jed, we'll pull up the graphic now from when they last met. Which one, what of this stands out to you? What do you remember about last year?
I remember getting the jump on them out of the chutes. We scored early, and then we built an early 2-score lead and kind of put them in a trail position for the duration of the football game. Jarrett Dagey played a productive football game. We were firing on all cylinders on the ground with Letty. Letty was 150 yards plus, big game for Letty. They just didn't have any answers for us defensively. I mean, we were kind of pushing them around and having our way with them offensively. And it was a relatively clean football game from a penalty standpoint. Refs kept the flags in their pockets, but we won on third down and transition downs. They were 2 of 10 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down, so 2 of 12 on transition downs. And one of the interesting things, again, this speaks to what I'm talking about. The type of defense that Kwiatkowski plays. You're not going to get splash plays. You're not going to get big plays, but you're going to get a lot of plays, okay? So how many third down attempts did Texas Tech have last week? 20. Trust me when I say, as a guy who studies these things, you don't often see an offense with 20 third down attempts. That means you're on the field a lot. Guess how many we had in Morgantown last year? 20. We were 12 of 20. So again, be patient, demonstrate that level of patience, and there will be plays to be made. Just don't get greedy. Don't jump off script. Don't take the bait. He's going to try and dangle that carrot and tempt you to do something silly. Don't do it. Stick to what you believe. Trust your eyes. Stick to your read keys. That's the type of football game we had last year. And that's once again the type of football game that JT Daniels will need to have this year, except like Owen said earlier, I think the O-line's playing much better football. That's about when they started to turn that corner. The TCU game last year, They played well in this game. So I think we're playing more effective up front at the point of attack. And I like the fact that, look, our football IQ, close to the football, that's what I always look at. Give me the football IQ, your center and your quarterback, okay? Well, to be honest with you, we got Bill Gates and Albert Einstein right there. I'd compare the football IQ to our guys, our battery, to anybody's. And I think this is the type of football game that's going to matter with Zach and with JT making crisp decisions and being patient.
I agree, Jed.
I love it.
Yeah, just from last year, I mean, if we have somewhat of a similar game and like you said, be patient, we have better people plugged in at those positions too. So build off of what we did last year, build off what we did these last 2 weeks, come in there, piss is hot, right? That's a Rich Rod quote right there. And just win, understand what's at stake. This is Big 12 play. This is a big opportunity to jump out to 2-1. Well, 1-1 in the conference play, but get back in talks.
Yeah. Get back in a winning record and all those different things. Taking a look here at the tail of the tape, brought to you by our friends at High Street Prints. Make sure you're checking them out at highstreetprintshop.com. We will have some merchandise. Say that again.
No, you go ahead and finish that. I was just
going to say, well, on our website at itgfootball.com as well, too, we will soon have some merch for you to purchase from our friends at High Street Prints. Jed, we'll start with the WVU offense versus the Horns defense. We'll pull up the graphic now. What stands out to you, signal caller?
Well, again, one of the things that I wanted to mention is in that football game a year ago, play count, snap counts. That's going to be a big part of this story heading here. We ran 87 plays in Morgantown. They ran 58. So I'm telling you, as you watch this game, let's hope that that's the kind of thing you see unfold. But when you look at West Virginia's offense, again, production in all the key metrics. But one of the areas that we didn't play as well last week that's going to matter once again this week was third down efficiency. We're still fourth in the conference. Now, Texas has struggled a little bit defensively. Now, this is where their defense contributes to their issues of high play counts, okay? They're not winning on third down enough to get off the field. So, when Texas Tech's 12 of 20 on third down, but also, 7 of 20 on third down, but they're 6 of 8 on fourth down, that also contributes to why Texas Tech defense had to defend 100 plays. So, and once again, anytime you play Texas, if you are going to try and throw the football, you have to be conscious of those long-armed athletes in that front seven. I mean, they're always going to have pass rushers. At any point, they can explode and burst out for 4, 5, 6 sacks on you. So you have to be crisp. You have to be decisive. You have to trust what you're seeing. But let's go back to what you talked about earlier, Wes. Red zone touchdown production. That could be where this game is won or lost. Okay. We're going to have some opportunities in the red zone. I don't want a big night for Casey Lake. Okay. I want a night with Casey Lake kicking a lot of PATs, not a lot of field goals. And if that's what we're talking about after the game, that'll be tremendous news. But just remember to distill this thing down to its bare essentials. The West Virginia offense against the Texas defense, it's going to take patience. You're playing with house money if you get big plays against these guys. And we're good enough, maybe we will. Because I'll tell you what, if there's a snitch in one of their coverages, JT will smoke it out and find one of our guys. So maybe we will. Maybe CJ pops one. Maybe we make a big play somehow, some way. Okay. I talked about this week. I posted a tweet. CJ's averaging 5.35 yards per carry, Owen, after contact. After contact.
It's a big deal.
That's more than 103 teams are averaging total rushing attempts. Okay. So you never know if that kid has a 40 or 50 yarder. Texas might fit things appropriately, get everybody in position. He still busts through a couple guys. The next thing you know, he's off to the races. So maybe we'll get a big play, but patience is going to be the key word. And that's what I see when I look at these stats too.
Yeah.
Jed, you're on point, brother.
Yeah, no, I love it. Listen, patience is not a virtue that I have in spades, but hopefully it's one that JT Daniels brings down to Austin on Saturday night. Other side of the coin here then, Jed, WVU defense against the Longhorns offense. We'll pull up the graphic right now. What you got for us?
Again, the Texas offense, that's never been the problem. Okay. It wasn't the problem with Tom Herman. It wasn't the problem a year ago. It's a function of how does that defense that offense hurt or help the Texas defense? And these are the reasons that they can't hold a lead. I mean, one of the legacies that Sark is unfortunately building as the head coach of Texas is he has a football team that gets up in the second half, but once they get off script, they blow these leads. I mean, he's blown multiple double-digit leads. It all started last year. I mean, there was a point last year in the Red River rivalry where Texas was ranked up 28-7 against Oklahoma and blew that lead. Okay. And then started this downhill spiral where they blew multiple leads last year. We saw it happen again. They were up 31-17 last week in Lubbock. The the ESPN rating gave them a 96% chance to win that football game when Bijan busted that run to put them up 31-17. But they let Tech hang around. That's kind of what they've been doing. Defensively, they have to stay on the field because of what their offense is doing. They got athletes. They make big plays. So a combination of that and failure to stop teams defensively. And that's kind of what you see here. But once again, this is an opportunity for West Virginia. We didn't have many chances in the red zone defensively last week to stiffen up. So we're still statistically struggling there. We've allowed a touchdown on 82% of the opposition's trips. So we're 10th out of 10 in the Big 12. Most of these other key metrics, most of these other areas, we've climbed the rankings in the Big 12. Okay. Total yards per game, we're second. Yards per play, we're in the middle of the pack. Pass yards, we're fourth. Rush yards a game, we're third. But red zone, we're still 10th out of 10. But again, Texas offensively is 10th out of 10. So in that pillow fight, who's going to swing the hardest, right? Are we going to continue to make them struggle, or are we the relief they've been looking for in the red zone? We can't be that relief. We're going to have to hold them to threes and win offensively, and we get it there ourselves. So that's what I'm looking at when I look at these statistics.
I tell you what, lot to chew on there. How big, O?
Yeah. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight. Biggest thing from last week and what we've talked about on this show, both of you have, spoke very highly on this aspect. We need 7.
Yeah.
Got to finish them out. Got to finish. And that's been kind of our MO. We don't finish. So we get down there, but we got to put it in. And just to say this, they see a big back in practice. We see a big back in practice. So wherever we go there, it's going to be one up front. We all know that already, right? That's going to be our key matchup. That's going to be our key victory, the tip of the spear. That's where we need to be. And it's going to be a big football game. This is not going to be something, I know you just said pillow fight because we're both 10th in the red zone there, but at some point in time, a team needs to get its mentality. When we get down there, it's in. It's 7 points.
We won't be denied.
Like we've had in the past.
Yeah.
That was a tremendous strength of our defense for the last couple of years. That was a signature of this defense.
Bend, but don't
and
break.
So we got to get back to that signature. Yeah, that's kind of the trademark of the West Virginia defense under Jordan Leslie and Shadon Brown is, and I'm going to go as far as to say, I think the team that's going to have the advantage, if you really want to get granular on this, because we're both going to be doing it, whichever team more effectively, I'm not even going to say runs the football, whichever team most effectively runs the outside zone. We can get that specific, okay? Because if we effectively run it, that's going to set the table for the rest of our run game. It's going to put us ahead of schedule in the pass game. And if they struggle to run it, I'll tell you what, that's one step toward putting a lid on a guy that's lightning in a bottle on Bijan. So Bijan is a guy that you got to take seriously, but especially when he's making those decisive reads and cuts on the perimeter. So if we can fill those lanes and frustrate that part of their run game, the stretch play, whoever does that more effectively, what do you think about that, Owen?
Well, I think the biggest thing too is tackling there, right? So we have to have all hats to the ball.
Yeah.
Big back, got to get a helmet on them, elbows, hips, you know what I mean? The whole nine, old school football, got to get a hat on them. Hurt them early, between the rules of the game, between the whistles, but get a hat on them, stuff them early. Like you said, you got to squeeze the run play down. And all that is playing with your hair on fire, right? Hit those seams. They're going to be there as linebackers, fill the gaps, make the plays. The thing that I noticed so much about watching him the other game was he's good at breaking tackles, obviously. And we just got to wrap up. A lot of missed tackles due to not wrapping up from opposing teams against Texas. I think if we can do that successfully and contain him, like you said, lightning in a bottle, we'll be successful.
And if you get hats to the ball, there's a lot of meat on that bone. Yeah. I mean, he's gonna force some missed tackles, which is fine. Damage control comes when you got 5 or 6 defenders right there at the point of attack. The problem that you encounter is if you don't swarm to the football and he shakes you loose, now he's 10 yards clear before that's the issue. So, I mean, I'm looking at this big picture. Like we talked about the success they've had defensively with, Kwiatkowski against the air raid. And I think the best quarterback he's faced in this type of system is probably Gardner Minshew. But when I look at Gardner Minshew and what he was doing at Washington State, they were incredibly one-dimensional. I don't think that Washington State had the offensive line that we have. Okay. So in other words, what resources does JT have? Because I'll stack JT up against Gardner Minshew, and I'm a Gardner Minshew fan, but I think JT has a better O-line and a more complementary backfield to better serve him. So I think he's a stiffer challenge for PK. So this is very interesting from a matchup standpoint, Wes.
Certainly is. Hopefully we set the table for a big one Saturday night down in Austin. As we start to wrap this thing up, Mr. Drenning, what are we projecting for the score? WVU, Texas, Saturday night at DKR.
Well, again, when you look at it, this is purely based on, it's not our prediction. It's based on what Vegas thinks, we think. So Vegas, Texas, we talked about it earlier in the week. Texas came out as a heavy favorite. They were a double-digit favorite with the early line. Who knows where this lands by the end of the week. But when we made this projection, Texas was favored by 10, over under low 60s. So we were looking at a 35-24-ish Texas score favoring the Longhorns. But I'm not so sure I agree with that. But I don't often agree with Vegas either. But we'll see. I mean, that's kind of what they're projecting to split the money, as we talked about before. They're not saying that's what's going to happen. They're saying they think. Right. That's why you split the money down the middle. So,
road dogs, Big O. Let's go get a road kill, baby. I love it. Before we go, 2 things real quick. They kind of work hand in hand, if you will. Neil Brown, fourth-year head coach of your WVU Mountaineers, has yet to win 3 games in a row as the head ball coach. He could do so with a win in Texas. And if they're able to do that, if Neil's able to get the 3 wins in a row for the first time here in his WVU tenure, you move to 3-2. I think that would set up for one of the better atmospheres we've seen at Mountaineer Field in a long time for that Thursday night game against Baylor. You'd have 3 wins in a row. You'd have all the momentum.
Going to a bye.
People
Going to a bye, then the Thursday.
People would be back on the train big time. And listen, I know that game's still, about 2 weeks or 2 weeks from tomorrow away. I went on WVUgame.com today and looked. It's not a sparse crowd. So, for Thursday against Baylor, but there's still a lot of tickets available, particularly in the upper decks. So I think there's a lot at stake here for Neil Brown getting that first 3 wins in a row and what that could mean for a Stripe the Stadium crowd against Baylor in a couple weeks on Thursday night for what could be an incredible atmosphere. I think it starts with taking care of business, going and getting that roadkill Saturday night down in Austin. Gentlemen, this was fun. Owen, thanks for dealing with the technology issues and strapping that cell phone to the side of your face like you're a GI stuck out there somewhere overseas.
Playing hurt.
Playing hurt. I love it. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to all of our sponsors who make this possible. Thanks to our buddy Sean Mariner for being kind enough to join us as always, too. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Let's go get a big victory. Horns down Saturday down there in Austin against those Longhorns. Let's send Matthew McConaughey home with a frown on his face. And as always, we'll be back next week to recap it for you all. For Wesley Uhler, for Jed Drenning and Owen Schmitt. It's late, can't you tell? For Jed Drenning and Owen Schmitt, I'm Wesley Uhler, and you've been